Hello, my name is Lucas. This is a bit of lit, and I would like to talk about Mother Night by Kurt Vonnegut. It is a book that was not recommended to me, but to another friend of mine in a 7-hour conversation with over Zoom with some friends of mine that I hadn't talked to in a very long time, and that was good fun. I took the initiative, even though the book was not recommended to me, and it was recommended because of the tenor of the conversation, we'll say, and how it relates to modern culture, how it still stands and can be adapted to understand it in a new context. And here it is. Kurt Vonnegut's Mother Night. We can see an American flag with a Nazi symbol. I'll let you put the pieces together. I am trying this on my iPad. I don't know if I mentioned that, so if the video or sound quality is a little bit different, that's why. I'm also trying to be quiet because it's very early in the morning. Anyway, I've got some notes on my phone to make sure to try and not say anything wrong. Okay, here we go. Auf Wiedersehen. Mother Night by Kurt Vonnegut. So, it is a metafictional novel. It was published in 1962, and it tells the story of Howard W. Campbell Jr. Before, during, and after the war, World War II, wherein he acted as a Nazi propagandist as well as an American spy. And while he was doing his radio broadcasts to renew the zeal of the Nazi national fervor in Germany, he would pause deliberately, or he would cough deliberately, or sneeze, or do any sort of thing, make different sounds, or have an absence of sound. And this would discreetly send a signal to American troops, American leaders, in some way that would help them with the war. And I've seen this quote a million times, and I didn't know where it came from. I knew it was from Kurt Vonnegut, but this is where you see the quote. This is the only story of mine whose moral I know. I don't think it's a marvelous moral. I simply happen to know what it is. We are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful about what we pretend to be. More so the latter half of that quote than the first half. I've seen that everywhere, and I was wondering, where does it come from? Did he just say it? Or now I know he wrote it in Mother Night. So yeah, he is on trial in Israel for war crimes in the modern times, I suppose, of the publication of the book, 1960, because Adolf Eichmann is there as well, and I believe he was on trial in Jerusalem in 1960, and then later hung because he was found guilty of war crimes. Or hanged, not hung. He was hanged in 1962. Anyway, he does see Eichmann, and they talk about following orders and that kind of thing for what he's going to use as his defense. And Eichmann gets a little bit upset, thinking that his shtick was given up. It's quite funny in that way. So anyway, what is this guy's name again? Howard. Yeah, I remember Campbell. Howard. He is an American. He moved very early on to Germany with his family and grew up to be a playwright. And he met a woman, Helga, who was an actress in all his plays. Nazi regime comes in, his parents leave, he decides not to because he's pretty apathetic. And it is infuriating how apathetic he is. And in a sense, it drives me insane because I feel like a lot of Kurt Vonnegut's characters are maybe not apathetic, but wild things happen to them and around them. And they just kind of roll with the punches in a sense. In this case, because he's apathetic, and with the moral of this story, it does work. And I suppose in a way it does work for all of his books, but I'm no fan of Vonnegut. Anyway, uh, the message is interesting and worth discussing. The way it's given out, I have quite a few qualms with, but not to get into too many spoilers, but because of his work as a Nazi propagandist, when he's in America, after he's made his way out of Europe and not taken in as a top Nazi official of sorts because he was the top propagandist, he looks back on that time and remembers the Nazis that he knew and came to care about and be interested in their lives and have laughs with, and etc. But he's tried to leave it behind. But people know who he is. People find out, and they don't know he was a spy. There's no corroborating evidence to show it, and there are sort of political reasons for that that are discussed, which leaves him in a sort of limbo of trying to live his life like a normal guy who was apathetic about the Nazi regime, but worked with the Americans, trying to live his life as a good person, but only being known for the evil that he helped to propagate. And, this ultimately is why he's on trial in Israel for war crimes. And, yeah, how long, it asks that question, how long can you pretend to, work against your own interests in a way? How long can you pretend to be something before your actions, whether you do them with intent and purpose, become who you are? And, he gets all kinds of reminders about his own actions and who he was, even though it was just a disguise all throughout, and he loses everything because of it. His wife's sister, who pretends to be his wife, but she's actually a Soviet agent, intelligence agent. Oh man. Anyway, his life, his privacy, everything, all because of the way he was before and what he did before. Because there's no way to prove at the time, and no one willing to prove that he was in fact working against that regime, of which he didn't care either way, because all he cared about was his wife and the art. So how much can we really feel bad for him if he really only cared about his art and his wife? Sure, when he loses his wife, that's tragic, but these are questions that we can apply to today. With, even in the book, there are American nationalists that want Howard to join his cause and speak to new recruits, so they can use him as a political tool for that party. And, it's completely applicable to today because there are American nationalists, white supremacists, Proud Boys, whatever you want to call them, whatever they are, whatever group they're in, that, make excuses for their actions and say all these things. Hopefully, somewhere down the line, there will be a shift, a tonal political shift away from that movement. Not veering into it, but away from it, to reject this idealism and nationalism and then these people will have to think about the consequences of their own beliefs, pretending to be somebody, and eventually becoming that person. What are the costs? What are the consequences? These kind of things. It's super early in the morning, not the most articulate anyway, but hopefully I got the idea across. Now, I want to explain why I am not a fan of Kurt Vonnegut, and that is simply because I don't enjoy his immature, self-aggrandizing style that shows you, look how clever I am, look at my bleak black cynicism with a hint of wit and humor to sear into the human psyche and the troubles of the world. I think there's a place for that, and I just think that he's not the one for that. I just don't think he does it very well, personally, largely because it feels like he's trying to show you how clever he is. And sure, there are little bits here and there that make me laugh, like Eichmann getting upset and his feathers being sort of ruffled about the "how did he know what I was going to say" thing. And that's about it. I found myself annoyed by this book, largely because of that, about this sort of knowing wit and these constant ironies, which is just part of his style. You know, people saying one thing and doing another and what have you. I mean, I suppose that's life and how people can be, but yeah, it's just annoying to me personally. I don't like Kurt Vonnegut, but I will keep giving him a shot. He does have some good questions to ask, and he does point at some things that are worth analysis. And so I do have to appreciate him for that, but I don't like his style. Okay, thank you, goodbye.